Hi guys, my name is Aspen Strauss, and today I am interviewing Stacey Heisler, who is part of the department for the Counseling Center. And today we're going to be talking about a couple follow-up questions from my last series of GRCC students get real about the second pandemic semester. Can you just explain what the Counseling Center is in general?
Sure. Yeah. Our Counseling and Career Development Center provides mental health counseling for all of our students on campus who are eligible, meaning that they are enrolled in the current semester. And all of our mental health counseling or our therapy is confidential, and it is free of charge. But we've been providing these services since the fall of 2016, and we're available to help anyone who's currently enrolled, who's taking classes in the summer, or maybe you were here in the winter, but you're enrolled for the fall semester, so you're returning. And that eligibility information, we can give you more information one-on-one if you call the office, and we can kind of go over that with you.
In the series that I did, the very last video, a lot of students had expressed that they didn't, along with myself actually, that they didn't know that they had a counseling center available to them. How would students who are completely online, they don't go to campus whatsoever, how would they hear about these services that are available to them?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I did watch your article, reached out to you and said, hey, this really concerns me. Students don't even know that we're available. So what can we do about that? So this interview is one step, I think, in a positive direction. And it's been hard, I think, for students in general to just connect with support services working in a remote environment. So of course, we have our website, which is just grcc.edu/counseling. That will take you to an overview. But we're aware that, students don't always go through all of the possible sources in a website. So it's been a bit of a challenge in this remote environment to connect ourselves. It's generally word of mouth, or it's coming from our faculty. So every semester I communicate with faculty about, we're here. Please keep an eye out for your students. We know how much you care about them. This has been tough this past year working remotely. And so any mental health needs that you're aware of, if you have any concerns about your students, just let them know that we're here. Make sure they have our phone number. That's the best way to connect, because that's how we make appointments. We can't do appointments online. You do have to call. You could email with an inquiry and just say, I'm granting my permission. You can give me a call, and here's my phone number. I want to know more. I may want to make an appointment. You could do that, and that's counseling@grcc.edu. But you wouldn't actually be able to schedule it, but you could call, or you could email and get information, and then give us permission, and we can call you back for an appointment. But it's a little challenging. We have some students on campus. I know we are advertising like our electronic boards on campus, but a limited number are going to be seeing that. And our orientation program, we used to once have a very comprehensive orientation program, but it's really been streamlined, and it's not fully required of students either. So they're missing that information when they're coming in. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today so we can try to get the word out more.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know that, well, personally for me, I actually wasn't supposed to come to GRCC originally. I was supposed to go to a four-year institution, and then because of COVID, obviously things didn't work out, so I just decided to stay home. And I mean, this pandemic has been hard on everybody, so everyone's mental health isn't where it used to be. So it's really good to know that there are sources for students to use, and hopefully now that they're more aware, they will be using it more often now.
Great. That's good to hear. Yeah, it's definitely, there's a trend that we are aware of in counseling centers across the country, both four-year and two-year schools, but where our numbers served have been reduced, and we don't know all the reasons for that. So we're not seeing quite as many students as we had when we were on campus. And in part, of course, some of that might be what we're addressing here today. They don't know that we're there, for one thing. But I also think there may be concerns regarding privacy. It's harder to find private space when you're in your home,
Oh
or
yeah.
you're in an apartment with roommates or wherever you might be living. And whereas on campus, that was always a secure private location. You didn't have to worry about someone listening in or overhearing. I've met with many students when they're in their cars, parked in parking lots, or in the bathroom or in the closet or any place to try to get some privacy. So I'm sure that's been a barrier for many. And that's a concern. So we definitely want to get the word out. One thing to note too is that, this question of confidentiality in student records is that in the counseling center, when you come to counseling career development, we do keep current records, of course, of your visits and notes and what have you. Those are secured in what's called a HIPAA compliant electronic medical record system. So those are separate from student record, but they are highly confidential. So anyone who calls the office who wants to know, did Aspen attend a session? That information is not available. That is, guarded by laws. So just so that you're aware of that, that's entirely separate from your grades, your transcripts, et cetera. It's a totally different system where those records are kept. Because sometimes I think that can be a barrier too, is that students are concerned, well, I'm in the nursing program, is my faculty member going to know about this? Or I'm in, I'm in the criminal justice program or the academy or whatever it might be, or just any situation, to be aware of that. So we
Yeah,
don't want that to be a barrier.
that's really good to know for sure. Because I
Yeah.
know, I mean, I would probably be worried about that if I had to go to the counseling center for something like, oh, I don't know if I want these people to know or not.
Right, right. That's understandable.
Mhm.
Totally.
So because of the pandemic, and obviously you guys can't do your counseling in person, it's all online and virtual. Have you had to
Mhm.
change your practices or anything or learned something different because of the pandemic?
We had to learn everything different. Um, March 18th, when we left our office of 2020, it's been over a year, of course, now. We did not have a video platform, a secure video platform in place that we could actually utilize, because we don't use Zoom. It's not secure, it's not confidential for a counseling setup, not the versions that we had access to. So we use a separate program called DoxyMe, which, maybe your medical provider is using that same program. So it doesn't require any app that you don't have to download. It just, it's all accessed through a portal on the web, that we provide that information for you when you make the appointment. But we didn't have that in place. We didn't have our online electronic medical records in place. We were working toward those goals. And it's, it's an institutional process. It's not something we can just flip the switch on. I had to go through a number of channels to get there, and it was in process, but not in place on March 18th. So we had to completely kind of reprogram the way that we were going to offer our services. And it took us a couple of months to get up and running, but it's been a great success. One thing to expect when a student makes an appointment is that you would be provided with a link, and that link is going to take you to the forms that need to be completed. Just like if you went to a medical doctor, you went to a counseling center off campus, there are certain forms in the process of coming through the door that you have to complete. And they're fairly extensive. So those are all electronically submitted, and then you're given the link to the video platform. And then we meet you there. You step into kind of a virtual waiting room, and then we come and get you electronically. And it's been working really well. And the success of telemental health in general, we know that that's going to be a platform that's going to remain post-COVID. We'll still be using it at GRCC. Once we go fully on back to face-to-face, we'll have both of those options available. But I think counseling centers around the world, it's been a big shift in mental health services. So It's been great.
Good. Yeah. So I know that you were saying earlier that your numbers are actually down for
Hmm.
um like I don't the word attendance isn't right, but
I
people
know.
coming for help.
Right.
Um has it been like a significant drop versus
It's
I guess
been,
last year?
yeah, it has been a significant drop for us. However, it's a curious thing. The word must be out because in the last month, we've really seen our the number of students who are accessing our center increase. So whereas the past we might have had maybe 500 students per year, maybe it's maybe just a couple hundred students at this point. So and again, checking in with other directors across. Particularly in the Midwest region, we're seeing at least a 30 to 40% decline
Oh wow.
in accessibility. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but on the other hand, because we know that mental health has been, um, it's been a very high need during the pandemic. We're hearing a lot of that in the research, but the access to the services, at least on campuses, um, is not what it once was. However, maybe this recent trend we're seeing is going to keep increasing. So we want to see students,
Yeah.
you know, um, other than also providing therapy, one-on-one therapy for students, but we also do programming on campus. So we provide that for our faculty members, we provide that for staff, just to have help to increase their awareness of mental health and wellness on campus to try to, we take kind of a public education perspective here that everyone needs to know and be aware. And everyone needs to be able to reach out and help someone when they need it and get them to the services that they need.
Mhm.
So we're also, we work with faculty and staff to educate them as well, so that we can be a healthy community to the best of our ability.
Obviously first semester I didn't know that we had a counseling center, but I would say my second semester my teachers were more advocate about saying, hey, if you need help, reach out. I would say my psychology, my English, my astronomy teacher, they were all really big advocates every single week for saying, hey, reach out if you need something. I don't think they ever mentioned like reach out to the counseling center, but I would definitely say that they wanted their students to reach out to the teachers to just see what was going on if anybody
Mhm.
needed help. But I definitely saw that change second semester.
Right. That's
So
good to hear. I
yeah.
think it's important to remember too when your faculty were coming into the fall, and or coming into last summer, um, they were struggling to come into this whole online world as well.
Yeah.
So maybe some of those key pieces of information were missed, those announcements up front, what have you. But I'm really happy to hear it because our faculty really care about students. And so they may have those one-on-one conversations. If someone did approach them, say, hey, I'm struggling, well, then maybe that one-on-one conversation was happening. Hey, did you know about
Hmm.
the counseling center? Because we do receive faculty referrals frequently.
Mm,
So
gotcha.
they know, and we want to keep them informed because they're
Yeah.
our best advocates. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I guess the last thing that I want to ask is there anything else that you want to add in about the counseling center? I guess that we haven't mentioned at all yet. I feel like we've covered a lot.
I just,
But
I just really, yeah, I just really, encourage that, not to suffer alone, not to suffer, period. Let's just know that we're here to help you, to listen, to, put together a plan too, how are we going to manage these symptoms that you're experiencing, if it's anxiety, if it's depression. I think that grief is an area that's really been on the forefront of managing this whole COVID-19 and the pandemic and being isolated. Of course, things are changing now with the vaccine, and now laws are being lifted or the guidelines are being lifted around masks, et cetera. But it's been a year of a lot of isolation and a lot of milestones that, celebrations that should have been taking place were either highly adapted or they were missed altogether, whether it was commencement or, graduation parties at the end of your senior year or the prom in your high school, or just, being laid off or working remotely, missing family. So there was a lot of grief for, not only for loss by death during COVID. I'm sure, numbers, so many people that we've lost, but also just we have to look at grief as loss in general. So that sadness that comes with grief is something that's helpful to share those feelings. So, anxieties as well. I mean, anxiety is all about the future and worry about the future and, what's the future going to look like? And we don't know, but we can help you with strategies for managing that anxiety, whether it be practicing mindfulness or, being more aware of your thoughts and how they kind of dictate your feelings as well, those connections. So I believe in counseling. If I didn't, I wouldn't have gone into this profession. I'm happy to say, I've experienced counseling multiple times throughout my lifespan to get through some particularly difficult times and passages. So I just encourage others to reach out.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I mean, I've also been to counseling before too. I mean, I feel as if a lot of people find it really, I mean, sometimes it's scary to talk to somebody about what you're feeling. And I mean, when you've held it in for so long, it's a different feeling, I guess, when you're actually communicating that with somebody else. But I really hope a lot of more people reach
Yeah.
out to you guys. So
Yeah, and it can be very scary, and it can be very intimidating just to come through the door and be asked all of these questions. And why are you asking me all these questions? But we ask those questions in the beginning, first session, maybe second session, to just get a really good understanding of all that someone's experiencing so that we can put together a plan to help. So if you've never been through a mental health assessment or an intake, it can feel intimidating. However, I would like to think that our staff, the three of us, Emily, Andre, and myself, we've been working with college students for decades. I've been a licensed professional counselor for well over 20 years, and always with college students. That's whom I've always chosen to work with, and Andre and Emily as well. So I think you'll find that we're friendly and we're helpful, and it's all about just being there for you. So we'll do everything we can to not create that sense of intimidation or fear. Try to put you at ease. So, yeah.
awesome.